Kyle Tucker's situation might be coming to an end very, very soon. We might have clarity on the only teams that are left in the running for Kyle Tucker, including my favorite team, the New York Mets, and the Toronto Blue Jays. A Toronto beat reporter on his podcast seems to think the New York Mets have a better chance at acquiring free agent Kyle Tucker over the Toronto Blue Jays. In this video, I'm going to show you the clip from the podcast, show you the spray chart, show you all the good stuff for Kyle Tucker, why he should be the number one priority for the New York Mets in this free agency period, a free agency period that's moving very slow. So share, like, subscribe, guys, to the content, daily Mets content, daily Giants, Knicks, wrestling in the future. Going to be doing it all, every Met rumor, every Nick rumor, all that good stuff. But you're here for the baseball. So let's get into quickly, before I show you the video, Kyle Tucker, what a lot of people forget, is a top 15 player in baseball when he's healthy. He's had 2 injury-riddled seasons, which have kind of taken the market where you thought it was going to be close to $400 million. It's kind of taken it down a little. And if you could get into a short-term 3-4 year deal with Kyle Tucker, even a 5-year deal for a guy like him, you'd sign up for it right away. All right, if you're the New York Mets and you could corner Juan Soto and Kyle Tucker in your outfield with a possibility of a Carson Bench becoming a superstar in the near future, that is a very, very good outfield, and you're looking at for the next 10 years of outfield. So looking at Kyle Tucker and what his spray chart is, I mean, there's no denying it. There's absolutely no denying how good of a player that Tucker is. We all know this. This is not rocket science. We know Tucker is a very good player, hits to all fields, good base runner, decent defender to a very good defender, has a couple gold gloves in his pocket. Again, good base runner, stole 25 to 30 bags. Putting him in this lineup with Soto and Semien, what you're also adding in the consistency with Tucker is less strikeouts. You're getting Semien on this team, way less strikeouts. Getting Polanco on this team, way less strikeouts. Juan Soto, we already know, does not strike out a lot. Kyle Tucker does not strike out a lot. He's never struck out more than 100 times in his entire career, so in his season. So what you're doing is you're bringing bat to ball with all of these guys that you're bringing in. And again, 28 years old, still very young, very young. 20 is not like he's 31, 32, 33 years old. Kyle Tucker's very young. So you're not getting a guy that's going to break down. You hope he stays healthy. And when he comes to the signing with the Mets, it would be such a good signing for this team, man. It would be such a good signing for this team. And in an offseason where the Mets have been ridiculed and David Stearns has been ridiculed and everybody being told they're going to boycott the stadium. No one's boycotting the stadium, all right? It's stupidity. What the Mets are going to do is shock people here, and of course that they're going to be interested in him. I think that the olive branches are connecting all offseason between Kyle Tucker and the Mets, and I think the Mets have waited out the market, and I think that they've come to a number where they could be pretty comfortable. Obviously, I think they still want Cody Bellinger, but I think Kyle Tucker would be a great get here. So let's get into this video that I came across with the Toronto beat writer. I'll have his name up on the screen as well. So getting into this, so it's Ben Nicholson-Smith, who had a Toronto beat writer, does the articles out there.
And if he remain to be,
so they were just discussing on the podcast what contracts would look like if the Toronto contracts that were brought in already, spending over $300-something million. They were talking about bringing back Bo Bichette, which is not going to be easy. And so let's just get into what these guys said and see if you guys agree with it at all.
I mean, I think with Bichette and Tucker, I would kind of lump them in similar territory right now, where they're great players. We all know they're great players, and we want them to do well in free agency. But if you're the Blue Jays, you've just spent $337 million on free agents this winter, not even including Shane Bieber, who opted in. So your commitments that you've given are $350 million.
That's a big number, right? $350 million after the Okamoto signing. That is a huge number for Toronto. And depending on where they play Okamoto, if he's playing the outfield, the Kyle Tucker room, you're going to get another guy in here for another 150 to 400, $200 million. I just don't see Toronto doing it. And if they want to bring back fan favorite Bo Bichette, they're not bringing them both back. So I would assume it's either one or the other.
Yeah.
Now, we know they're a big market team. This is what big market teams should do. And after a World Series run, they're in a great position to build. They obviously want to build. So I don't think they're going to rule anything out. That's not the way that they've operated. They've checked on all kinds of big free agents over the years, from a Garrett Cole to Corey Seager to Marcus Semien to, the more recent examples like Shohei Ohtani, of course, and Dylan Cease this year, who they landed. So there are countless names where we can point to that and say the Jays check. So I would expect that to continue to be the case. They have relationships with Bo's agents. They have relationships with Kyle Tucker's agents. No reason for that conversation to be shut down. However, I agree with Jeff in saying that at one point the Blue Jays looked like the best candidate to give Kyle Tucker a long-term deal. Now I would say that's the Mets, because you look at the Mets roster, they have Tyrone Taylor starting in one outfield spot on their projection. They have Carson Bench, I had to check that name, starting in one of their other outfield spots. So clearly the Mets need to add an outfielder. And Kyle Tucker's out there. The Mets spend like nobody else.
It seems simple enough, right? It seems simple enough that the New York Mets are the best fit right now for Kyle Tucker. And if you are David Stearns and the Mets and you awaited this market, and just coming from a podcast in Toronto, right? There's no main credible source, but you have a Toronto beat reporter who's in the mix every single day, that discusses the Blue Jays every single day, probably knows a lot more than what a guy like me in New York would not know when it comes to Toronto and what their spending habits are and everything else that goes around in the Toronto organization on a daily basis. What I do know is that David Stearns and Kyle Tucker seem to be a nice fit. It seems to be a guy that Stearns would love to have on the team. This notion that David Stearns doesn't sign players long term, I think, is a little overblown. There's really nobody out there that you want the Mets to lock into for 10 years, 10 plus seasons. There's no pitcher out there. There's no position player out there. And those 10-plus year deals have to be saved for guys like Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, other younger, long-term type guys. Kyle Tucker, 28 years old, a little bit of an injury history the last 2 seasons. It might worry David Stearns a little bit. It might not. But the market did come back down now. The market's back down. And if you could get him on a short-term deal, 3-4 years, even a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal with an opt-out after 2, where Tucker could become a free agent again, prove that he could stay a little bit healthier, opt out. Now you're into your age, maybe 29, 30 season, where you can hit free agency again after the lockout, which is probably a big reason why a lot of these deals are not reaching their full potential anyway. That's something that could benefit Kyle Tucker tremendously, and the Mets, where they wouldn't have to lock in long-term to a guy that has been getting injured over the last 2 years. But again, here we are. We're just at a lull right now with free agency. We don't know who's signing next. We don't know when they're signing. We're 5 weeks away from spring training for pitchers and catchers. And 80% of the free agent market is still out there. And the lockout's looming after this season. The lockout's looming, and it's causing a lot of this problem. The MLB offseason moves at a snail's pace on a regular offseason, let alone an offseason where there's a pending lockout the following year. So we're not going to see major signings on a daily basis. So the one crumb that we do get, and all these reports are just crumbs right now, that we don't take too seriously. All we could do is discuss them. And until something breaks when it comes to Jeff Passons or even John Heyman or Ken Rosa or any one of those credible guys put something out, even Will Salmon, who's been putting stuff out, until one of those guys credibly puts something out, we can't take a lot of this stuff seriously. All we could do, and all I'm doing, with just like 1,000 other channels, was just discussing every single rumor that's really out there right now, because that's all that's happening. There's nothing happening. We'll talk about the Yankees signing Paul DeJong or the Mets signing Christian Arroyo. How much could we talk about that? There's not much to talk about. Guys just aren't signing big-time deals quick. It's not happening. So again, I mean, we're stuck at the snail's pace right now with waiting for these big guys to sign. And it's not like Tucker signing would make other signings happen faster. They're just not moving at all. So we're stuck until something happens. So I'm thinking Toronto and the Mets are the final 2 teams. I would favor the Mets right now, especially if it's a short-term deal. Hopefully they sign him. Hopefully they could get that bat into the lineup, that glove into the lineup. Smart player, put him right behind Soto, in front of Soto, and in between Lindor and Soto. Whatever you want to do, you could bring those less strikeouts into the lineup, which I love David Stearns is doing. Guys, share, like, subscribe, follow the socials if you can. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff. And share, like, and subscribe this video for more Mets news and rumors that we're just going to keep talking about every single day until something breaks.